The sound hits the ear, and the body takes over. The jaw tightens, the heart rate climbs, and adrenaline floods the bloodstream. For many driven, deeply loving parents, this is the daily reality of hearing their child whine. You love this tiny human more than anything, yet the specific pitch of their voice triggers an overwhelming urge to run away or lash out. That flash of rage or panic is rarely a sign of bad parenting. It is a neurobiological root firing in the nervous system, overriding rational thought in the heat of the moment. Addressing this gap, the space between our values and our reactions, begins the process of interrupting patterns that have often been repeating for generations. When a toddler drags out a high-pitched plea for a snack, they are not executing a calculated manipulation tactic. They are using an evolutionary bid for connection. This graph illustrates the results of psychological studies measuring galvanic skin response, literally the production of stress sweat in adults. The data shows that a child whining causes a sharper, more intense spike in physiological stress than the screech of a table saw. Nature designed this sound to be biologically intolerable. It ensures that a busy caregiver cannot ignore a vulnerable infant's needs, weaponizing the sound to guarantee attention. But historical parenting norms often ignored this biology, viewing a child's vocal distress as defiance that had to be squelched through strict, harsh discipline. When we punish a child for whining, we are fighting millions of years of evolutionary design, usually just to make the sound stop so our own panicked nervous systems can find relief. To see why that punishment fails, we have to look inside the child's head. A young child's prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for logic, reasoning, and impulse control, is drastically underdeveloped. In the early childhood brain, the prefrontal cortex is practically offline. Emotional responses are dominated by the amygdala, making them completely reactionary. Lacking the hardware to self-soothe, harsh consequences don't teach a lesson, they send a stress signal processed as a literal survival threat. Repeated exposure to this threat response wires the child's brain for anxiety. They become highly sensitive to making mistakes, rather than learning the actual mechanics of emotional control. Discipline based on punishment demands a biological capability, independent self-regulation, that the child simply does not possess yet. If the child's brain is just acting its age, why is the adult's window of tolerance so narrow? For many adults, the answer lies in an attachment wound. More specifically, the trauma of parentification, which occurs when a child is forced to carry the emotional weight of their own caregivers and act as the grown-up of the house. That experience writes an implicit rule into the nervous system. Expressing your own needs is dangerous, or an impossible burden to those around you. Decades later, a child's specific pitch or persistence can trigger an immediate physiological response. To a parent whose needs were ignored, this sound feels like the start of an exhausting demand they aren't prepared to meet alone. The sudden rage isn't about the child's behavior. It is a defensive mechanism, protecting against a trauma the parent's body still remembers. Breaking this cycle requires a non-negotiable first step. The parent must intervene on their own nervous system before addressing the child's behavior. This creates the foundation for co-regulation. Because the child lacks a mature prefrontal cortex, they borrow the calm, steady nervous system of their caregiver to find their own physiological baseline. The mechanics are entirely physical. Getting down to the child's eye level, softening the vocal tone, and breathing slowly helps their erratic heart rate and breathing pace with yours. Co-regulation is not giving in to whining. It is providing the biological bridge that will eventually allow the child's brain to build the pathways required to self-regulate independently. Discipline requires a parent to master their own internal state first, providing the stability a child needs to navigate their own emotional storm. You can validate a child's intense emotion while firmly holding a behavioral boundary. It is possible to say, "I know you're upset," while still maintaining that the toy must be put away. This structured approach relies on connecting before correcting. The Flip-It framework, feelings, limits, inquiries, and prompts, decodes hidden needs before enforcing the rule. And when a parent inevitably snaps, a clean apology builds resilience. It models that mistakes are survivable and adults take responsibility. The long-term dividend of this practice is profound. A child raised this way trusts their environment, regulates faster, and does not associate love with fear. By responding to a child's needs with connection, we offer them a security we might not have had ourselves, creating a new environment where both the child and the parent can finally feel safe.